Hello and welcome to episode 287 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. We've been putting together a ton of shows. It's hashtag Smash Running Back Week. We've been putting out all the different videos on YouTube about this 2025 class, how special it's going to be when it comes to that running back position. And when you start talking about that, when you start talking about the guys that you're going to be adding in, Snoog, right now I have 14 running backs who I have that are worth a 2025 first. We talked about that 2 shows ago. But now what I'm looking at right now is there are at least 5, maybe 6 running backs that are going to slip into the first round of Superflex drafts. And guess what? When that happens, there's going to be a shakedown. Things are going to change up. And that's why we're going to talk sells today, because some of these guys right now, it's time to move before this new class comes in. And Snoog, yeah, I'm excited to chop it up. This week has been incredible. You guys have come out big time in support for YouTube. The number went up over 2,100, and you guys just keep jumping in. So I love all the support. Snoog, this has been a fun week so far.
I don't think I've ever watched so much running back film in my life in such a short amount of time. Like the past 2-3 days, every day after work, once that 5-6 o'clock rolls around, I'm glued to my screens, just analyzing all these players. Like, it's been so much fun to watch, like the big 6, like the Junty, Caleb Johnson, Travion Henderson, Mari Hampton, Quinton Judkins, Nick Singleton. Like that big 6, in my opinion, has been like
mad.
It's hard to pick out holes in their game, because it's like I can see all these guys just being NFL starters. Yep. I'm excited because it's going to come down to who gets the best draft capital, who gets the best landing spot to kind of shape out those tiers for scheme fits. But I'm excited. This is where we live right here, is in this rookie space, and we're trying to pave the way.
To every 3 or 4 years, we get a running back class like this: 2017, 2020, 2023. And I'm really getting tired of people posting all over the place, hey, this class is trash. You guys are really going to fall apart. No, this class is not trash. It does not have an elite level quarterback. A lot of people are out there saying there's no elite level wide receivers. Ted McMillan's going to go top 10. He is going to be a dynasty wide receiver 1. You just set it and forget it. It's going to happen. And this running back class, not only, and you guys got to check it out. Brock Dynasty set up an absolute fire edit for us. We have our tiers in there. We have all of our content when we're talking about running backs. And this class is going to be special. It's not just Junty. It's Johnson. It's Judkins. It's Henderson. It's Hampton. There's at least 6 guys who are going to be surefire top 15 dynasty running backs. And then there's about 11 guys that have opportunities to be starters, which is just something that is unheard of, to get that many from one class. Snoog, what I want to talk about today is we got to start talking about ourselves. This time of year, it's very easy to say we're going to do some buys. And I do that every single month, put it in the Patreon first, and then January 1st, I'll have another one February 1st. It's like, here's the buys. These are the guys that we're going for. Again, I put that in the Discord. Our Patreon is a premium Discord. It showed up really weird. It's not going to, but right now, patreon.com/accept. You guys get in there, check out the other videos. It's the best place to be right now. Honestly, $5 a month. We are up to 480 plus guys talking shop 24/7. And you don't got to just trust what we're saying. I mean, we've been getting guys in there. Some of the comments, Snoog, I got to read these off, because I'm like, this is the kind of stuff. This is why we do this. This is why, we want to be in this space. Is some of the comments the guys have written in there. Like, guys said, hold on, there's been a bunch of them today. Can you pull that up real quick? It's in, put referral program. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, it's in. I'll read them off right now. Hold on.
Oh, there. I just found it. So, I mean, some of these are just absolutely awesome. I mean, D. Whitney said, been a member for a full year. I can honestly say I wouldn't have come close to going back-to-back without this group. Year 1 was kind of lucky. Year 2, listening and following Snoog and Dad is really where I pushed luck aside and built a legit contender to win this year and years to come. Going back-to-back yet another year. LCAB 04 put actually just upgraded to VIP tier. If that tells you all anything about this Discord, you guys are crushing it. Thanks for all the help. Guys are saying, Doc said, cashed in 11 of my 23 teams, won 7 titles. Already looking forward to next year with this Smash crew. Guys, this is the place to be. If you even look at some of that, if that guy won 7 titles, and even one of those was because he was listening to what been saying there, he 7x'd his money on one membership. You know what I mean? And then he won 7 of them.
This one guy said to me, he goes, I was in 7 leagues last year. I went 0-7. I was in 7 leagues again this year. I went 7-7 while I was in your Discord. I said, that's what we're here for. And I went through a ton of Twitter DMs today, just helping people out with trades.
Yep.
I also just try to see those Twitter DMs as much as possible because we get absolutely flooded. But one guy was like, yeah, I actually need to rebuild the team. So like, I'm gonna jump in there tonight and then let's talk. Help me rebuild this team. I said, we don't rebuild that Smash except unless we absolutely have to. We win championships. And I sent him a screenshot of just all the customer feedback of all these guys. Like I went into it with a bad rebuild team, came out as a champion within a year. So we can almost not guarantee you, but we can almost guarantee you a top 3 team.
The rebuild process, the rebuild process now is 5 years old. And 95% have made the playoffs within 2 years. I would say the percent that has won them is well over 50%. JC Glazier says that you guys steered me to the first 2 ships this year. Just listen to the podcast, love the content, and want to be, can't wait to join the Discord. Other guys, glad I catch these live streams from Carl the Goat. We love the community. We're super excited about it. Let's jump in to the sells. And Snook, I put a post out there the other day, and guys were really starting to razz me because when we're doing our sells, I am trying to actively buy running backs in this class. I am trying to actively tier up at the wide receiver position. And I want to start out because this is running back week. But for me, I am taking the following wide receivers and I'm trying to tier up. And guys were really having a problem with this. I put George Pickens. George Pickens is a major sell for me. George Pickens, if I can get the 106 right now, 107, I think I'm going to smash that because Snook, the way he underperformed this year, 53% of his games were under 10 fantasy points per game. You and I were big on him this year. I'm out right now. And the reason we do this at Smash Accept is we're not going to tell you to sell Keenan Allen because if you do that, that's a cop-out. You're like, who the hell's not selling Keenan Allen? But we're selling George Pickens for the 106 because you know what? Give me the 106 and Jacoby Myers, and I'm going to draft Caleb Johnson and have Jacoby Myers as my wide receiver because George Pickens, if I'm only getting 10 points, 10's not even a lot, 10 points in 53% of games, that's not a player I want to put in my lineup.
Yeah, George Pickens is a guy that, he has all the talent in the world, but Arthur Smith and whoever the hell is playing quarterback in Pittsburgh, whether it's Fields, Russell Wilson, it's just not going to get it done. The volume's not going to be there. It's a run-first offense. Yeah. It's very gross offensive scheme, so I'm just off them.
Only 2 games over 10 targets. Only 2 games as a wide receiver 1. Only 3 games as a wide receiver 2. So 75% of the games you were getting from George Pickens, he was a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4. And I'm so tired of that in Dynasty. And these guys on this list that I'm selling, it's the George Pickens, it's Chris Olave, it's these guys that they're gonna Jaylen Waddle. Are you winning with those guys? No. They're decent assets. But if they're only putting up 10 points in 50% of the games, no, that's not how we're doing this in Dynasty. If you look at my team
that are just like those two, Jordan Addison, Jameson Williams, 2 guys that are going to give you spike weeks. They're overvalued.
But at least Jameson Williams and Jordan Addison gave you spike weeks. George Pickens didn't even give you a damn spike week.
All of them, though. They're all in the same tier for me. It's just tier up. Tier up or tier back for vets.
That's the thing. So right now, if I have George Pickens and I have extra picks, you know what? I'm going to give George Pickens in a first gladly to get myself into an area where I'm going to get one of those top 10 guys. I love this right here. Right here. John Sanchez, Dynasty Dad is a big reason I finally won my Dynasty League. Love to see that, John. Those kind of things I get tickled with it. It just pumps me up. But Snook, you look at, I won 7 leagues this year, and of those 7, my wide receivers on those teams were Jefferson, Chase, Neighbors, Puka, Brian Thomas Jr. We're on all of them. I don't own Rome Odunze's, Zay Flowers, George Pickens, Jordan Addison, Devonta Smith, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Jaylen Waddle. I'm tearing up. I need elite because when you get elite wide receivers, if you tier up to Lamb, Jefferson, Neighbors, Amon-Ra, Puka, and then you throw in your running backs of Mixon, Kamara, the cheaper guys, to me, that's how you build your dynasty teams. elite level wide receivers.
Yeah, because they're so much cheaper, the running backs, like the Kamaras, the Joe Mixons, the James Connors, but they're going to outproduce the Devontae Smiths, the Zay Flowers, the Rome Odunzes, the George Pickens, the Jaylen Waddles, the Jordan Addison. So like they're way cheaper. So take all your assets, put them into these elite cornerstone, the Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Browns of the world, and then build up that quarterback wide receiver room, and then go get a George Kittle and go get an Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, load up that veteran RB room, and then prepare yourself for a class like 2025 to take those second round picks you have, those late first, those mid first, load up on Quinshad Judkins, take Devin Neal, DJ Giddens in the second round. In the third round, take some shots on Kyle Mungai from Rutgers or any of these guys that could be day 3 risers or someone like that. Like, this is what you need to do. Because you'll hit on the Isaac Grangos, you'll hit on the Bucky Irvings, you'll hit on these type of guys. Then you're turning those guys into the elite wide receivers and recycling that process. This is what Dad and I do all the time. I'm just going to be wide open with everybody. I 5X'd my buy-ins and all my down. I was in 20 leagues, 2 were rebuilds, so 18. I 5X'd my buy-in. I made 10 championships. So yeah, it's the same process I do.
So and when I put this out there, everybody's like, well, these are fine guys. I would buy him. So George Pickens, any guess what he finished in fantasy points per game? Wide receiver what? Just take a wild guess.
37.
40. That's trash.
Wow.
That's right between Calvin Ridley and Jaden Reed. But the
it was looking
George
really
Pickens
good for a while. It was looking really good for a stretch of games. It was like, okay, but he's coming alive.
Here's what I'm saying is I am tearing up to somebody elite like Puka Nacua. Or you know what? I think I could get, if I give George Pickens and something a third that looks semi-attractive, somebody in that area, I think I could get the 26th first in Devontae Adams. I think I could get something like that where it's like Devontae Adams is going to give you more, and then you're going to have a pick next year. So we're talking about, when you talk about these wide receivers, we're tearing up or we're tearing down. And if we tear down, we're going to add some of these picks. We're going to get these guys that are going to, put up major points for you. Next guy that's on that list for me, and I got to get your opinion on this because this was one I argued on Twitter big time. You and I loved him last year. I'm selling Rome Odunze for the 106 in this class all day long just to reset the clock. And I want to talk to you here real quick. Do you know where Rome Odunze finished in fantasy points per game?
He wasn't
wide
even
receiver 65. Okay, now listen to this. Wide receiver 65. Out of all the wide receivers that had over 100 targets, only 2 of them averaged under 10 points per game. Elijah Moore and Rome Odunze. Every single other one averaged 11.5. Rome Odunze, 8 points. So sell me on why I should be still committed to Rome Odunze when I could trade him straight up right now for, Luther Burden plus, for Travis Hunter plus, for Amarion Hampton plus, because he was valued at the 106 last year and he's still valued at the damn 106. So why would he not go down in value after such a horrendously inefficient rookie season? Sell me on it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the part.
The talent's there. I love the talent.
I think it's people holding on to the talent and him flashing that kind of upside. Like, he had some spike weeks, he had some crazy plays, some crazy catches, good routes. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I think Caleb Williams was very bad at times this year. He was a lost puppy in the pocket. He didn't know how to play in structure. Everything had to be out of structure for him to give you that 1 to 2, like, oh my God, this guy's amazing plays, just to suck you right back in. But on a play-to-play consistent basis, Caleb Williams was a bad quarterback this year.
I agree.
I'm not blaming it on Caleb completely because the O-line was bad. The head coach left. He was fired. The OC sucks. Right. It's a disaster. But when Keenan Allen goes, Keenan Allen was very good at times. He had like 20-plus points. He won or lost, or you lost against him in the fantasy playoffs for a good amount of time. In like week 15, 16, he was on fire. But Rome Odunze is going to come in. Then he's going to be that clear 1B behind DJ Moore, right there with DJ Moore. He maybe even take over that one role. He has the draft capital, the investment. He's still 21. He's a very complete player. If you can get him. I'm not
selling him for peanuts. I'm saying
I'm not. I would buy him. I would say he's a buy. So I'd have to disagree with you, but I get what you mean by re-rolling the dice because you said this last year. you were re-rolling that Flowers, the Addisons, the JSNs, and turning them into Lad McConkey's, Brian Thomas Jr.'s, and it worked out very well. So I will give you your flowers for that. Yeah.
And that's where I liked what I saw from him coming out. But right now, if I re-roll the dice, like I was talking to my main man, Scarface, who's been doing mock drafts, and I offered him Rome Odunze in the 112 for JSN in the 207. That's the kind of move I want to make. I'm not talking about blindly selling him for.
Do you think he could have a JSN type year too, though? Because if you look at JSN in Rome's
it's very similar
first year, it's very similar, and they both flashed a lot, and they're both similar kind of players. They're both very talented, smooth players that aren't these elite athletes, but they're very fundamentally sound. I think like we were in on Rome Odunze as a prospect. We gassed him up during the whole process. We are right. The NFL viewed him the same way we did. He went top 10 in the draft. We nailed that part. It just sometimes it just doesn't align. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. had 890 to 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. He had a very good rookie year, but not compared to BTJ, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors, all these other guys outshining him. So
for every Jackson Smith and Jigba that breaks out after an inefficient year one, there's always that other guy where if Rome Odunze, even if he gets injured next year, if he doesn't produce, now you're talking 2 bad years where now his value goes from 106 to 201. You know what I mean? Where like the trades I'm seeing right now in Dynasty Data Lab, Odunze for Metcalf, give me Odunze for something like that. Rome Odunze in a second or Chase Brown, I feel like that's a fair buy for Rome Odunze. But then I'm seeing Rome Odunze and the 110 for Puka Nacua. I'm sorry, give me Puka. Like Puka Nacua is what you want for your dynasty teams. Rome Odunze and Bryce Young for Puka Nacua. I'm taking Puka there again too. What else we got here? I mean, there's some decent looking trades.
What about
Waddle? Go ahead.
Where you at with Xavier Worthy? I mean, if you really dive into Xavier Worthy's rookie year, it was honestly very impressive for like what he was used as in his snap share percentage. Outside of 5 games or 4 to 5 games, he was like very good, especially the last like 4 games. He was on fire. I mean, he had like 9 touchdowns in 16 games. He was overthrown on, I can't even count on hands how many times Mahomes messed up an overthrow or underthrow because Mahomes just, I don't know if he lost the touch because he hasn't really had to throw downfield yet. But I think once that connection connects, I don't think Worthy's ever going to be like a stud. But I think Jordan Addison, Jameson Williams right now on the I think his floor or like ceiling is going to be like wide receiver 18 to 25-ish. But he's going to be a very good NFL player for the Chiefs.
I'm more bullish on Rashee Rice. Like what I put, same. And I put Xavier Worthy because I do a sell per team. And let's be honest, if you're playing Dynasty the right way, saying Travis Kelce's your sell is a cop-out. So like, are you going to sell Pacheco? What are you going to get?
So is
get
Mahomes a sell? Would you say Mahomes is a sell?
Mahomes is a buy for me.
I've told everybody to sell Pacheco. If I can get an early, if I can get any first or an early second, I'm
up
selling
to 203.
He's not
selling.
Good. Yeah,
he's going to get replaced. But I think he's good. Patrick Mahomes is a buy. He's going 208 in startups right now. I'm seeing a lot of. I mean, if he goes into the second round, he's still supremely talented. But Rashee Rice is the buy for me. Xavier Worthy's the sell because they've almost come to the same value. Worthy's worth the 108. Rice is worth the 106. And if
taking Rice,
Rice is absolutely a beast. He's an alpha.
Yeah.
Like he's there. Worthy's going to be a nice number 2. And again, I'm not actively selling him, but like if I came to you right now and offered you the 107 in this class, would you rather have the 107 or Worthy? It's pretty close. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Though. If Worthy was in this class, he'd definitely be a top 5 receiver. He'd probably just be like in the same tier with like Emeka and Luther. That's where he would kind of be. Yeah.
And that's fine. And it's just like resetting the clock. A lot of people are like, well, Dad, you post these buys and sells, and sometimes they're the same players. Snook, every player in Dynasty is a buy or a sell. I can't stand when people – I've said it now that Brock Bowers and Jahmyr Gibbs are not leaving any of my teams. But anybody outside of those 2 guys, everyone's a buy and a sell. It's all just what your price is.
And it's crazy. But I love Jahmyr Gibbs so much. Like that, he is a stud. We've been preaching him on this channel since we started, since the 2023 rookie draft. he's a sell. Like if you can go get Bijan plus like a good second, like some of these guys plus like big pluses, you could argue he's a sell. Like anybody can be a sell in the lens of like Jamar Chase is a sell right now. Why? Because you could probably get Justin Jefferson in the 201 for him. So that's like the way you got to look at it. And if you slowly build this process and keep snowballing it and using that snowball effect, you're going to have ridiculous amount of draft capital and still a ridiculously good team, and then you're going to build the dynasty powerhouse.
So I look at this, a guy in the Patreon drafted Brian Thomas Jr. He drafted him after Rome Odunze. And then just the other day in the Discord, he posted that he traded Brian Thomas Jr. for Rome Odunze, the 104, and a 26 first. You're like, yes, he's a sell then. You know what I mean? Like, it's just an obvious move. Now, all of a sudden, you get Rome Odunze, who's ascending, possibly. You get yourself another wide receiver, and then you get a 26 first. That's a smash. What I'm selling with these guys, and the next one I have on there, and you're not going to like it either, because it's Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen Waddle was the wide receiver 56 in fantasy points per game. He has.
Yeah, he was very mid.
He has 4 wide receiver 1 weeks in the last 2 years. All right. Jaylen Waddle is not what we had in the beginning. Now, everybody else on the other side, and this is what's so much fun about Dynasty, is they're like, Dad, he's a buy because Tyreek Hill's going to leave. So sell me on buying Jaylen Waddle because I'm selling. If I can get a 26, a 25, any 25, any 26, or 27 first plus, I'm doing it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. If I can get like a good first where I feel comfortable that it's going to accumulate value and bring me more value than what Waddle's worth, I would sell. I also think that you can look at the argument of, okay, Tyreek leaves, but there's still like that issue. Like, okay, then Tyreek leaves. They have literally no one other than Waddle. They're probably drafted in Emeka Egbuka or Luther Burden at 17, 2 guys that would fit that offense well. Then they're going to likely – there's a chance, I don't think they should, or I don't know if they will, but they could fire McDaniels. They could change a lot on the offense. Like, things can change. So Tyreek can leave, and then everything changes. The offensive scheme changes because you don't have Tyreek Hill on the team anymore. So obviously you can't run all the same plays. So things would change. But I think Waddle is one of those guys. I think Devontae Smith and T. Higgins are the best number 2s that you can buy right now. Like, those are the only guys I feel comfortable buying. Like, instead of buying a Waddle, instead of buying an Addison, instead of buying Jameson Williams, just go buy Smith and Higgins or take those guys and add whatever you need. Yeah. I wouldn't give more than a late second, but add that to get to those guys, or go up to the Drake Londons and Garrett Wilsons of the world and add a late first and get a second back type of trade.
I'm looking at Dynasty Data Lab, and it's Jaylen Waddle, Sutton in the second for Drake London. Yes, go do that. Drake London with Penix Jr. was the wide receiver 1. Like, he was just getting peppered, and then there's trades like that where you just, all we're saying is, if I can give Waddle in a second to get to a Rashee Rice, absolutely, I'm going to smash that all day long, and I'm going to try to get into those kind of areas.
Before we jump to another position, because we've done a lot of wide receivers, but the wide receiver is just so deep, so it's a lot easier to do sells for this position. DK Metcalf, Josh Downs. I want nothing to do with either of them. I don't want anything to do with anyone on the Colts that's not Jonathan Taylor, especially if A-Rich is their quarterback. And DK Metcalf, man, I don't know what happened to him, but he is just not the same in that Seattle offense. So sell us. Sell us on selling those 2.
There's going to have to be a study about what happened to DK Metcalf, because after 4 weeks, you're like, he is going crazy, right? He's taking care of business. And then all of a sudden, Gino's like, nope, not anymore. This is going to be the JSN act. And I have him as one of my major wide receiver sells. I mean, I think DK Metcalf right now, I would sell for the 108. And I know that sounds
I'd sound for like the 109 one thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
as long as Geno Smith is the quarterback in Seattle, I want nothing to do with DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I'm out. I think DK Metcalf, again, most of these guys, your best avenue is to tier up, is to take DK Metcalf, add him. We're going to talk about this a lot in the offseason, but we do a lot of reduced volatility trades. Mm-hmm. So you take DK Metcalf and Derrick Henry, and you pair them up and you get Garrett Wilson and a running back that's significantly less. Get yourself a wide receiver you're going to build around, and then a different running back. I mean, I think last year we were doing that all over the place. I think Josh Downs, I see Timothy Liggins here. He says Josh Downs was decent when healthy this year. I agree. But I think
player, never more than that.
Right. And this is what we're talking about is if you build your wide receiver rooms, I mean, my smash except 2 wide receiver room is Puka, Chase, Jefferson, and AJ Brown. And you know how many wide receivers I have on my bench, Snook? And that's what Josh Downs is.
You're just not going to win a championship with the Josh. You're just not winning a championship with the Josh Downs in your starting lineup. It's just not happening.
When people were telling
QB all year.
When people were telling me that, Rome Odunze is a good flex play. Bull. He averaged 8 points a game. George Pickens is a good flex play. You want your flex play to score less than 10 points 50% of the time?
As the wide receiver 18. Yeah. No.
But what you do is you get these elite level wide receivers, and then you can plug and play your running back room. I mean, you can win championships with Alexander frickin' Madison, or you plug and play running backs. You can't plug and play wide receivers. Yeah. That's why everybody this time of year we're talking about, you know what? Tier up at wide receiver because you're going to get Junty, Johnson, Judkins, Henderson, Hampton, Singleton, Scatterbo, Sampson, Gordon, Giddens. There's so many running backs to start building around here. Yes, Benito, George Pickens is a major sell. We just covered that. The other guys there, I mean, like we talked about Waddle. Waddle, you're just not getting that same level of production. I'm going to say something again, and you're going to hate me. So we're just going to open this can of worms because I've already tugged at the heartstrings a little bit, but I'm low-key selling Garrett Wilson. I love him.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I love him, but we have not seen it. Now, Devontae Adams could leave, but I think we have this area right now where we have to at least kick the tires. Like Garrett Wilson for you and I was top 6 wide receiver the entire way. Right now, I'm going to name a name. You tell me if you'd rather have him. Nico Collins.
Nico.
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Garrett Wilson.
See, I have them in the same tier. Drake London.
That one's tough. I think Drake London just has a way better situation.
Yeah.
Coaching wise, quarterback, just everything wise.
Yeah.
Than Garrett Wilson does. But I think Garrett Wilson won't lose any value going into the offseason. So I think you wait to sell him to see who that head coach and offensive coordinator ends up being. Because if they get Ben Johnson somehow, or they land a Vrabel or one of these stud head coaches in the offseason, I'm going to consider myself back in on Garrett Wilson because I think there's a chance they can draft a quarterback maybe or figure out quarterback. Anything's better than Rodgers. Like he was literally boycotting Garrett Wilson doing anything. And it was insane.
He's going to be to a point where he's going to be a prime candidate for an insulated trade because I think by the time NFL draft season rolls around, I think you're going to be able to get Garrett in a first for Nico in a second. That's really,
Garrett hasn't had a single situation good for him, whether it's coach, quarterback, anything. And he's put up numbers that would most likely kill the careers of most wide receivers in the NFL. And that's what's special about him. I think his time will come. I just don't know when, but his time will come to be like a 1,400-yard receiver. He has that.
But
talent.
This year, we got Ladd at 15.1, JSN at 14.9, Garrett Wilson at 14.8, all in that back end wide receiver 2 area. You know what I mean? And you've got to really look at your fantasy points per game because, you got guys that you should be buying like T. Higgins. T. Higgins has a great situation now. He's either back in Cincinnati where he was literally in fantasy points per game was top 5, or he goes somewhere like New England where he's going to get peppered like crazy. And so when we're talking about these sales, we're not saying just sell this guy blindly. This is just kind of where we're at. We're trying to move into those kind of things. So here's a question from Benito. He says, I have Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, and Zay Pickens. Feel like selling all of them. And you're right, because Zay Flowers is on my list to sell, as is DJ Moore. And it's not that they're not good wide receivers, but I don't feel comfortable with any of them as my wide receiver. They're not my wide receiver ones. They're not my wide receiver ones. They're flexes. And it sucks.
If I have Garrett, he's a very good rebuilding asset or like a 1 year punt type player. But if I have him, I'm honestly just looking at what elite wide receiver has a good long-term situation that is being very undervalued right now, it's CeeDee Lamb with the injury and the injury to
Yeah.
Dak. I'm taking Garrett and adding like a late first or an early second, whatever that gap is in your league for a CeeDee Lamb type of player.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do. Or AJ
Sticking with the
Brown, like
Jets.
Garrett Wilson for AJ
Yeah.
Brown type of deal.
Yo Reach wants to know, is Brees Hall a sell? And for me, no. I'm
You
buying
can't
Brees
sell
Hall.
some. Yeah, you really can't sell him because he hasn't done anything.
Garrett Wilson went from, say, 102 to valued right now at maybe 104, 105. Brees Hall has gone from being valued at 101 to 107, which is just wild. You know what I mean? So for me, Brees Hall is, I'm holding him. If I can do, like I said, a reduced volatility where I give Brees Hall and Cooper Kupp for a young wide receiver and an old running back, sure. You know what I mean? But like for the most part here, you are looking at someone here that you have to hold Brees Hall. Brees Hall is going to bounce back for sure. I'm going to pull up some other sells here, but the biggest thing, and I want you to elaborate on this, but you and I have always been, we're going to try to buy players before they reach peak values, and we're going to sell players when they're at peak value, where most podcasts are going to tell you to sell guys after it's already passed, right? They're going to tell you to sell a guy when the market's dried up. So tell me a little bit about that process for you.
Yeah, that's where it's tough because you got to know when to buy and sell. I'm not buying really anything. I'm not really doing anything in any of my leagues right now.
I've made one trade. That's it.
Until playoffs, at least until it's the Super Bowl. Like I want to have enough teams eliminated where I don't trade for a superstar player that worth 2-3 first and then they tear their ACL somehow. Like I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to risk any of that because that can set you back big time heading into next year. So I'm hanging tight right now, staying low key. Once that Super Bowl rolls around and that ends, it's go time. That combine up until the NFL draft time is when you can just make so many trades. And if you have draft capital, I've told everybody in the Discord this, don't act like you know who's going to be the 103, who's going to be the 105. We don't know anything. We know one thing. It's going to be Ashton Junty 101. Probably going to be Tet 2. 3 through like whatever is like such a gamble. Yeah. Everyone thinks Cam Ward's going to go 1 overall. Everyone I think this QB class sucks, to be honest with you. I wouldn't even be shocked. I'm not touching any of them besides maybe Jackson Dart if he falls like crazy in the draft. I can get him like early second because I just like his skill set and I think he's undervalued. And it's just like, all right, I'll take a shot at him. Almost like the same lens as going into like last year with Bo Nix. It's like, all right, he's like an early second, went first round in the draft. Like, let me take him. I'm not sold on like Cam. I'm not sold on any of these QBs besides maybe like Shador going first overall. But I think it's going to be all running backs. And what comes down to the end with running backs is where did they get drafted? What's the situation they got drafted to? And when? Like, did they go second round or fifth round? Because that matters.
Right.
Like, there's outliers in the fourth round, like Bucky and some of these guys. But second round, first round, maybe third round is like usually like very safe trajectory. In a stacked class too, you'll get a lot more guys that go in like round 3 and 4 because it's just deeper. But like that second round just is screaming.
And the important part about that, and I love what you said there, is I'm now looking at the running backs and I'm like, okay, we talk about you want to invest in redraft in ambiguous situations, but right now you don't want to invest in ambiguous situations. I want to invest in a situation where I know what's happening. I want to invest in a situation where this is the bell cow, and there's some guys that I have on my cells where it's like, J.K. Dobbins right now is probably your last chance to sell. He's had some flashes, but he's playing on borrowed time with those knees. He's been fun to watch, but guess what? They will draft a running back. So right now is the time where I'll sell J.K. Dobbins in the third for a second, or I'll sell J.K. Dobbins in the 212 for the 202. I want to use J.K. Dobbins as a vessel to move up in the draft. I think he is likely going to still be involved in this team, but he's going to be someone that I'm moving up. Some other guys in that, you and I both love Nick Chubb, but it was a tough comeback for him. The flash wasn't right there, but I could easily say the Browns taking somebody next year, and I think Nick Chubb would be a guy doing the same kind of thing. Right now, if you trade Nick Chubb in the 301 for the 202, and you have a shot to get Dylan Sampson, Cam Scatterbo, one of these guys to fall into that area. Other running backs in that situation. I mean, we're looking at. I like Tony Pollard.
Brian
Robinson. Brian Robinson's the biggest sell.
Pacheco, Brian Robinson, Trey Benson, Najee Harris, Tyrone Tracy.
Najee Harris, another good one.
All these guys. Swift. If I can get early to mid seconds for any of those guys, they're gone. Like out the door.
And I'm okay. Like I said, is like if I take a projected late 26 second and add them to them just to get an early 26 or 25 second this year, I'm all in for that. And I've been seeing people really be bullish still on Tyrone Tracy. And yes, he has flashed. The fantasy points per game were there, but those fumble issues are going to cost him long term.
They're going to bring in a Quinshon Judkins or Nick Singleton or Ollie Gordon in the second or third or fourth round. And he's
these guys
be a guy that's just a change of pace guy.
Yeah. On the flip side, the other thing I like to look at since we're talking about running backs is guys that drafted a running back last year early. Guess what? The Rams sure as heck are bringing in another one. So Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, they're safe. Yeah. So for me, safe. Kyron Williams is very safe now at this point.
I think
and
Blake Corum's the backup.
Too. Bucky's safe because they got
Chase
White.
Chase Brown and James Cook and not Rashad White anymore.
What?
Chase Brown and James Cook are two that I think it could go either way just because there's such a high-powered offense.
Do you think Buffalo's going to – they took Ray Davis. You think they take another guy?
When you have an elite quarterback and an elite offense, running the football, especially in today's NFL, the way it changed so much from last year to this year with the running backs, this is like going back to like the 2017, 2018, 2019 days when like they have a running back and they still take one in the first or second round just because it's like that much of a skill gap between what they think they have and what they think they can get. Like
Buffalo's got some defensive gaps though.
Like you have James Cook, right? You have James Cook or you have Buffalo does have a lot of holes. You have Chase Brown and Joe Burrow is done taking hits. You want to get that run game really established so the play action opens up. You draft Ollie Gordon. And then Chase Brown loses goal line touches, or they draft like a Quinshon Judkins or Amari Hampton in the second round, and then all of a sudden Chase Brown is competing with a guy who's much more talented than him, who they also just used a lot of draft capital in. One thing you also have to think about: new coaching regimes matter. So, like the Jaguars, new coach is going to be in Jacksonville, a new coach is going to be in Chicago. I think Chicago or Dallas leaves the draft with Ashton Junty. They're going to take
new coach is getting his guy. So like you really pay attention to if the Jaguars get the Jaguars are getting a new coach and they draft another running back, then ETN and Bigsby time is coming to an end.
Ben Johnson to the Bears. They take Junty 10th overall. Where do you rank him in your dynasty rankings? You still have him
RB3. Yeah. He's not. I feel like he's going to be the 3 no matter what. Because unless he goes to
Dallas, he could get a gross amount of volume. Yeah. He just might not have the longevity. He might not have the longevity.
He's not passing Bijan and Gibbs for me though, no matter what.
I don't think he is. Yeah, I don't think he is. As much as I like him, I don't think he is.
And I don't think Saquon, A-Chain, anybody that's in that next tier below is also going to pass him. So, I mean, he feels very comfortable at that RB3 right now.
I would love to see the Bears go after like a Judkins or a Henderson or one of these guys in that early day 2 range if they get a new like a Ben Johnson coach or someone like that.
Chargers is my dream for those guys, to be honest.
There's so many good.
I saw a tweet. Are also in that area.
I saw a tweet that said like I don't see any good I don't really see many landing spots open in a stacked class like this. And I just was like thinking, I thought of like 6 or 7 wide open, perfect landing spots right off the top of my head that we'll be picking in early day 2 range. I mean,
let's look at right now. Steelers, Najee and Jaylen Warren are both free agents.
They're not good.
Maybe it happens. You know what I mean? You look at, we have
Raiders,
obviously
Chargers, Bears, Chiefs.
Exactly. Like it comes up pretty quickly. It's not
Broncos. Oh my God. The Broncos running backs.
The Browns, the Broncos.
Browns.
I mean, the Texans will be looking for an heir apparent for Joe Mixon. You have to
Yeah,
feel like
I wouldn't be
the
surprised.
Ravens are looking for an heir apparent to Derrick
That's what
Henry, even Alvin
a
Kamara.
Nick
Like,
Singleton or an Ollie Gordon,
I
one
mean,
of these guys that people
no,
love is going to get stuck in one of
the,
those situations where he's behind a vet and he's going to be a value, and then you draft him. Like look at Tajay Spears. He was behind
yeah,
Derrick Henry, then he was behind Pollard, and now he's flashed like so much, and now he gained a ton of value. It's that simple. Like it really
we
is.
got the Giants, the Patriots. They could even. I mean, Rams going
All
to be
those
there, but
teams
he's a
have
complimentary.
horrible running backs. Yeah.
The Vikings. I mean, let's be honest. Aaron Jones is on his last leg.
Yep,
You know
that's
what I mean?
another one
The
that they
Eagles.
used Cam
Eagles.
Akers so much this year because Aaron
Eagles
Jones
don't
is
have an
just not
RB2.
healthy, and Aaron Jones is actually hurt right now again.
Yeah.
So, like, the way you have to look at it is NFL teams, just because they have a running back that is viewed as decent and they need other things, you don't know how important the run game is for an offense, especially today with all these too high safety looks. The run game opens up so much. The play action opens up, takes less hits off the quarterback, takes less pressure off the quarterback, gets the whole offense going, because you get that run game going. Boxes have to be stacked. You got to figure out how to shut the run down. Then all the passing is opened up downfield, brings that play action out, brings deep shots out. Like, all these teams need that. Like Drake May, rookie. Imagine they go get Tet McMillan, 4th overall, whatever they do, the Pats do. They get a tackle, then they get a Emeka Egbuka. They're sitting there in that early third, that whatever it is. I think it's like 64, 63, whatever that first overall pick or 4th overall pick would be in that third round. And you have Nick Singleton sitting there. Ramondre Stevenson can't do what Nick Singleton does. He doesn't have that explosiveness. He's not the receiving back he is. Like, that's one of those situations where people would fade Singleton and be like, I don't like it. Ramondre's there. And then Singleton beats him out.
He's a complimentary running back. He should be more like
he's not a bell cow. He's a role player plus. He had his bell cow shot. He looked good, and then he lost his juice. I don't know what happened, but
so there's so many opportunities here. This has been running back week. This is fun. We wanted to really cover, how you go about looking to make some dynasty sells. And I hope that through this episode, you realize that we're not saying Jaylen Waddle, Rome Odunze, DK Metcalf, Zay Flowers are bad wide receivers. They're fantastic wide receivers. But in Dynasty, this is not how we're playing, right? Like, if you could have sold last year, and you easily could have sold Jaylen Waddle for the 109, right? And guess what? You drafted Brian Thomas Jr. Or you could have sold, and
or
every
Bowers.
year when you reset the clock. So let's say, and like I said with Rome Odunze at the 106, you drafted him last year at the 106. He didn't do anything for you. You sell him this year for the 106 plus something late. And now all of a sudden Luther Burden comes in and blows up year one. Guess what? Now he's worth the 106 plus. And that's how you win in Dynasty, is selling out ahead of time or buying guys that you believe in. And we're going to do this all off season. We're just trying to give you some early ideas. Right now in the Patreon, guys, we are having this is what's so cool. So we got Scarface is over there doing mock drafts every single day. Once we get rookie drafts, we're going to have mock drafts for that. We have guys in there setting up startups. I know you guys are tired of doing a startup and 5 or 6 guys leave, and then you got to blow it up. Snoog, 16 Smash Leagues, 5 orphans. That was it. They sold in the Patreon in less than a minute. Every single one of them was filled.
Yep.
We will not fold any Smash Accept leagues. Guys are even making their own leagues in there. Why not want to join a group membership? 480 guys all be like, let's start our own,
$5 a month. Yeah, it's honestly a no-brainer. I mean, I put 2-3 orphans in the leagues that I am in, 2 that I run. I commission 18 leagues, so I get orphans that pop up here and there. So if you want to be in a league with myself or with Dad, it's another opportunity there, because I've been getting a lot of like Twitter DMs and stuff like, I'm trying to get into some more Dynasty leagues, and I'm like, dude, like, I got a community we built with like 480 people that never sleeps. I literally posted on Twitter a chat from like just this week, and it was just scrolling, and just my chat alone. That's not even Dad's. That's not even like the community chat. So that thing is bumping 24/7. You want trade advice if you should sell Jaylen Waddle for a first? You can get that from like 75 people, different answers to help you feel better about it. So,
yeah. And if you're going to start a league, why not start it with a bunch of degenerates that are smashing Dynasty trades? Like guys that were like, well, I want to join Smash 7. I saw you have that as an orphan. How many trades were there last year? I pulled it up, 42. I challenge you to find regular Dynasty leagues that had 42 trades last year. My like home draft, my home leagues, it's like 7. You know, we want to be in a community where we're making trades, where we're having fun, where we're enjoying it. And for me, the most important part is making trades. So thanks again for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the process. Boom.